I'm going to hit F to go back to my front view. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this by right-clicking and converting it to editable poly. And then I'm going to use the freeform tools to help me retopologize this character's head very quickly. So with this polygon selected, let's go up to Freeform, Polydraw, and then here you're going to see Draw On. I'm going to switch this to Draw On Surface. This is going to allow me to pick what surface I want to draw on. In this case, I want to draw on the character's head, and so it's going to be the high poly object here. Now with that, if you go to Polydraw, you should see HP_head set up there, and then we can go into Extend and start working on this. Now really quickly, just like I've been doing, I want to make sure that my low poly object also is named properly. So I'm going to say LP_head. So let's go to Polydraw, and let's make sure our offset value is set to something around 0.1, and then I'm going to go to Extend. So here what I can do with Extend turned on and activated, I can hold down Shift, Control, and Alt, and I can left click on these vertex points or vertex points of this object, and I can start to drag them along the surface of the head. And so notice how it conforms to that. Now you'll notice that it's sticking up off of that for some reason. Why is it doing that? Well, remember that offset amount. So we need to make sure that we draw that down a little bit further. So instead of 0.1, let's do something like 0.01. Let's see what that gives us. So let's go to our front view, hold down Shift, Control, Alt, left click, and just start putting these points into position. Let's go ahead and switch to our perspective view, check that really quickly, and you'll see that that's fairly close. Now there's a problem going on with our character right now. Because we're very, very close to the character, it's starting to draw through the face. Now if I hit F on the keyboard and I zoom in on that, you'll see that it doesn't allow that drawing to happen. Let me actually I'm sorry, I'm hitting F. I'm thinking of a ZBrush term. Let me hit Z on that. And what that should do is it should start to zoom in on that, but that's not working. It's cutting through. I don't really like that. Now, there are some options that we can adjust, but the main problem is that the character that was brought in is very, very small. And so what I want to do is just temporarily scale this up. So with the high poly mesh selected, you'll notice that its position is set to 0, 0, and 0, which is perfect. It's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and right click on the scale tool, and I'm going to set the offset world position to 1000 on all three directions. And that's going to scale that up and make it much larger. Now I'm going to close this down, and then I'm going to select that little polygon. Even though I can't see it, I'm going to go ahead and drag it up. Actually, it might just be better just to delete it and then start with a new plane there. So let's drag that out, and then we'll go ahead and right click, convert it to editable poly. We'll go to Polydraw, and we're going to make sure that it's draw on the head. Okay, so that is still there. And then I'm going to turn on Extend, and I'm going to take these vertex points and I'm going to bring those right over the top of my character's head. Okay. And so if I go to my perspective view, I take a look at that, you can notice now that if I zoom around this, I can see that much easier, and the camera's not sticking through that. Okay, so very good. So in our front view, let's come in and let's start to retopologize the character's face. So I like to start out on the eye, and I'm holding down Shift, Control, and Alt to move the individual points. But if I hold down Shift and then left click and drag on an edge, I can extrude that, okay, or extend that edge, and that creates a new polygon. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift, I'm going to start dragging around here. Okay, these are really great tools to have, and they're really, really great to work inside of 3ds Max for retopology purposes. So I'm going to come in, and I'm just switching between holding Shift and dragging the edges out, and then holding Control, Shift, and Alt to move the individual points. So as I pull an edge out, I'll hold down Shift, Control, Alt, and then move the individual vertices that are newly created and try to match those to the surface of my character as closely as possible. Now I want to make sure that my polygons that I'm creating are a good consistent size, but I do want to make sure that they are large enough to where I don't get too many and have a hard time creating detail, or at least getting the model blocked in at first. Okay, so I'm going to pull this in, and then at this point, let me actually pull this in right here. And then I'm going to hold down Control-Alt, and I'm going to left-click and drag from one edge to the other, and that will bridge between the two. So now I've just created a loop of polygons around the eyes. Okay, so we've got something like that. Looks good. And then now what I want to do is just want to tighten this up a little bit more, just kind of bringing those around some. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to start to build out the rest of the face. So once the eye has been built, I like to come in and I like to start building around the mouth. And I'm just starting to get these loops together, so that way I can just build in between those. So at this point, what I like to do is just go ahead and go to Polygon